one thing I always like find funny is you see all these like podcasts. They always ask people, "What was your first time smoking weed?" And to me, that's not really memorable. The first time just smoking some pot's not as memorable as what was the first time you experienced cannabis where it changed your whole outlook. You're like, wait, this isn't just pot. This is the weed plant. Like, what bag of weed took you to that place?
What bag of weed did you smoke and realize that you would now always be smoking weed?
Right.
In some capacity.
Yeah, what bag of weed changed your life? It wasn't that bag of fucking dirt weed that you saw when you were 13.
Yeah.
For some people, maybe, because they like getting high, but there's this experience where you go from, I'm just buying bags of weed, and the weed is whatever it is, to, I won't buy that weed. I'm looking for chronic. I'm looking for the head stash. Who's got some homegrown? Who's got the White Widow? Who's got the dog shit? Who's got the Albert Walker? Like, when did it... That's two totally different people. I want some pot, and I want some Albert Walker. It's like food. I want a hamburger, or I want Wagyu beef. There's not the same person.
I can actually remember that moment for me, now that you kind of talk about it a little bit. So I started smoking probably in 2002, 2003, something like that.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like, especially in Northern California, it was pretty much humble Urkel. That was all the rage. That's what was fetching the most. People were paying $5,000 a pound for fucking tiny little fucking rock hard purple nuggets.
Yeah.
And that, I was in high school, bro. That's what everybody had. That's all anybody wanted was purple. So for the first, 6 months or a year that I was smoking, all the weed kind of looked the same, and that was the only weed that I had ever seen. So I thought all weed kind of looked like that, right? I hadn't really gotten into it yet. It was just like, we're smoking. I'm just smoking to get high.
Yeah.
I got some bud, bro. I never even thought anything about it. And then I had a buddy that was a little bit older. He went to a dispensary. Went over to his house. He had a jar of some Chem D.
Yeah.
He passed it to me. I look. Obviously, if you've only ever seen like fucking dense little purple golf ball nuggets, and then you open a jar of some Chem for the first time.
See all the resin on it?
What in the fuck is this? This is the same thing as this?
Yeah.
It's like these big old crazy calyx nugs with hair sticking all off of it.
Yeah.
Crazy gassy, fuely smell that didn't smell anything like. I was used to, smoking shit that like, if it was really good purple weed, it tasted exactly like candy, just sweet, grapey. It wasn't I didn't get like, oh my god, the skunkiness, the gassiness.
Yeah.
Like, when I first started smoking weed, the weed that was popular at that time didn't remind me of like when you're a kid and you would smell adults around you smoking weed and you would just smell like, oh, it smells like a skunk is around. I never got that when I started smoking weed. But the first time I cracked that jar of Chem D, it opened my mind to, oh, this is a totally different thing. And then when I tried a strain that was more like that and started understanding that there's different effects that you get too. Some weed makes you fucking creative and want to do shit. Some weed fucking makes you want to take a nap. Some weed gives you the munchies. Some weed, you know what I mean? Once I had that epiphany and realized that you could tap into certain different things by smoking different kinds of weed, that's when I realized, like, oh shit, this isn't just about getting high. Like, there's way more to this. There's so much more to dig into.
So it's a jar of Chem D from a dispensary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Is like, that's the most memorable. Like, I see you're smiling about it, right?
Yeah, because honestly, right? I hadn't thought about that.
That was the moment. It's like, it's not the first time you smoked pot. For most people, the first time you smoked pot wasn't the experience. Most people are even like, I didn't even get high. I was with my older brother and he made me smoke and I didn't really like it until I tried this or that. But there's this difference where like you tried a bunch of bunk shit for years or just didn't really know or weren't paying attention, and then finally someone showed you some weed where you're like, holy fuck, this is what the plant does? Wait, there's more kinds? Wait, I don't just like smoking pot to get high. I like this plant. Well, I like what it does. I think it's interesting. I want to know more about it. I'm going to go drive halfway across the fucking state to buy a bag of some weed I heard about on a forum. And that's where this channel started. Am I wrong?
Yeah. It was all about the pursuit of... Because as soon as I found out there was other kinds, I'm like, oh, now I want to know what do I like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if this is... And I don't think I could have seen anything... It was actually a perfect time because... if you show me like some real fucking clacked out Chem D that's just like super calyxy hair,
beautiful, great
sticking
herb,
up, looking crazy, it's still
skunky.
Still, dude, Chem crosses are still
Top
always
tier.
at the top to me. But if you, there's no better contrast than that like 2003, 2004 Humboldt Purple Urkel. That is another one of those strains nobody really grows now because it stays small. You know, it's not, people want purple now, they just want gelato. You can do things, that's one of those ones where like, nowadays everything's purple, but it's not necessarily like true purple genetics for the most part. Like a lot of the old purples and stuff that you work with, nobody works with anymore. Nowadays it's just like altering things, cooling down the room, doing other stuff to change color.
Process, mostly.
Yeah, but not actually purple genetics. So like back in the day, it was like we had real purple strains, purple Urkels, even like gray beige.
They were just more
stuff
distinct.
That was candy purple.
Yeah, they were distinct on their own.
And I don't see that around anywhere anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is.
It's funny because like
it's a productivity and pricing thing, and like I said, it's just the general overproduction in the marketplace that's made those business models not viable on a state-to-state level. They'll probably only be viable on a nationwide level because there'll be enough people that do want to smoke the grapes that you can grow it and get 1 3/4 pounds of light and grow it some special way, but you're selling like $15 million worth of this shit. So yeah, it's a little more expensive to grow it and it's a little more trouble and no one else wants to do it, but that's why it works for you.
Yeah.
Is you're the only guy that wants to grow the GDP and sell it. No one else wants to do it. The market's not that big for it anyways, but across the nation it's big enough for you to make a good living, and that's hopefully that'll be the re-emergence of like the craft grower.
Yeah. I think there's just going to be such a strong demand for that from a nostalgia perspective. You know what I mean?
Hopefully,
like
yeah.
when I was just talking about that Chem D, all these different memories started flooding
I
back
can see you
into
smile.
my
That's what I
head.
was saying.
I was thinking about all different types of like weed memories and just memories I have from being a kid from around that time that sparks. You know what I mean?
100%.
That makes me like I want to smoke some Chem now.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know what I mean? So it's like. That once you, and that's when you realize
And
like weed.
That's when you know it changed from weed to like
This is part of my life now.
this plant is a part of my life. Even if I don't want to smoke weed anymore, I'm still going to be fascinated with the smell, the flavor, all this stuff of the plant. And that's what like people don't realize. There's a lot of people that are addicted to growing weed that don't even smoke anymore, but they're addicted to growing. They can't stop. Right? People in older age or even my age that are just they grow and they just sell the weed or just give it away to their friends because they just love growing. They don't even burn anymore.
Yeah.
Because they got too much work to do. But the idea of like not growing is like they're like, no, I wouldn't do that.
Well, I think it's a meditative thing too. You know what I mean? Like there's people who just love gardening and they don't even need to grow food to eat it. They might not even particularly like flowers, but they like being out there in the sun, having their hands in the dirt. You know, just having that moment,
That's
peace.
right. Appreciating the plant.
And I think what maybe a lot of people, if they spend a big chunk of their life growing, maybe you get to some reason where you can't smoke anymore. Maybe you can only do edibles. Maybe you just you don't like it anymore for whatever reason.
That's right.
I could totally understand that still wanting to grow.
But they have a harder time stopping growing than they do stopping smoking.
Say 30 years from now, I don't smoke weed anymore. Yeah. Every time I run into you and you have jars on you, I'm still going to want to open all the jars and smell them.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm still going to geek out if I smell something I've never smelled before.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I'm not saying just cannabis can have this effect on your life. There's all kinds of people that have this relationship with all kinds of plants or species or pets or all kinds of stuff. It's just, what was that one experience where it changed from like, oh, these are just people's pets, these dogs, to like, I'm a dog person. I love dogs. Same thing with weed. It wasn't just like, for most people, they didn't just start out like that. There was a specific experience. With weed, it's usually a strain. With a dog, it would be probably a specific dog you or a family member or somebody had, and you're just like, man, that dog was so cool. Like, how could I not want to have one of those in my house or in my family?
That's why people tend to be breed people.
Agreed.
I have beagles, and that's all I have is beagles.
Golden retriever person or whatever.
Shih Tzu people, little fluffy Chihuahua people.
They had this experience with either one of their own or someone else's dog that made them affectionate towards that, and it was a specific experience. It wasn't the first time they pet a dog that they knew that Chihuahuas were the ones. It was after they had seen dogs as kids, or maybe that was the dog they grew up with. But it was always a specific, or not always, but it's typically is some sort of specific experience that really makes you affectionate towards, especially something that's living, a plant or something that requires a plant or an animal or something that requires attention and devotion to it to keep it alive and to cultivate it. And you do that simply because you know it adds value to your life.
I think, not to get too philosophical, but I think that type of stuff really is kind of the key to living a happy life, is having shit that you get excited for, even for tiny little moments throughout the day. Every day when I get home, I'm excited to see my dogs. Every morning when I take that first toke, I'm excited.
It's fulfillment.
You know what I mean? Every time you have a really good meal, whether you make it yourself or you're excited to go to a place and you wait in the anticipation, then you go and then they deliver and it's as good as you thought it was going to be. Food does that for a lot of people. I'm not talking about like gluttony and people that are addicted to food, but people who really appreciate fine dining.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's so many. It can be art, it can be anything, but you have to find something in life that gets you excited, that you'll get out of bed for.
And it's that you have to put in effort, time, investment, or whatever it is to get the reward is really a big part of what makes people happy.
And I think what makes people happy is things that feel rewarding, and the only way something can feel truly rewarding is if you know you put in the work.
That's right.
You know?
If you invested the time, energy, whatever it is that you were trying to accomplish, there's always going to be some sort of hardship that's required to get there. And the depth of that hardship, the more it is something you dislike and then you accomplish it, the more rewarding that feeling is going to be because you're overcoming your fears or your insecurities or whatever it may be.
Yeah.